some people that were talking about reparations in this country. They wanted reparations. And I remember I made this particular liberal so angry at me because I told them right to their face, nobody owes you anything for slavery. If you want to tell the truth about it, it is you who owes. It's you who owes. Why do you owe? Because somebody in those fields took stripes for you. Somebody, after those fields were ended and slavery was ended, somebody had to walk through Jim Crow for you. Somebody fought wars and died for you. Somebody lived less than because they didn't have what you have, and they did it for you. There are people in their graves right now, and they are there because they were willing to stand up and fight for you. Those folks on the Edmund Pettus Bridge carrying American flags, take that, Colin Kaepernick, living in a society that he could scarcely acknowledge, something that he has never known, living with a bigotry that none of us can imagine. Carried American flags on that bridge, and when they were hit upside the head with nightsticks and shot with water hoses and knocked to the ground, they got up and picked those flags up and kept marching. And they did it for you. Nobody owes you anything. If anybody owes, it's you. Because you've been the benefactor of freedom. You are the one that owes.
That is the voice of Lieutenant Governor of North Carolina, Mark Robinson. This was from 2021. He is now running for governor of North Carolina, and he has melanin. This is complicated, y'all. You got Tim Scott out here. You got all manner of people supporting things that they probably shouldn't be supporting, including the Republican Party. This is very weird. We are here, Sina Ghaznavi, of course, my partner in power today. We're joined by Keith Boykin, who has a new book about race. We're going to talk about it in a second. Thoughts, though, because I think Mark Robinson has a good shot.
Well, I thought when I was listening to that, I really thought Clarence Thomas was very angry. And then
he wishes he was that articulate.
We're in a time when that people the Trump cultists want people to join the cult, and they'll look past all the stuff they used to look past before. Although notable that we should bring up Iowa with Vivek, when a lot of people in Iowa were saying, well, what about, is he is he Muslim? He's a bit dark. They kept saying that. They said it to his wife. The white ladies were saying that to his wife. We're hearing this. We're hearing that. There's video about this stuff, man.
Trump is hitting Nikki Haley with the birther thing, wherever she's from. That's crazy.
No. I can't.
Keith, what are your thoughts? Is this where are we right now?
I've been saying this for a long time.
To the mic, sir. To the mic.
Oh. I keep moving this mic. Every time I take a break, I move the mic. I've been saying this for a long time that white people love black people. And I'll say this thing for people of color. White people love black people who love white people.
Yeah.
And so they love people who are going to validate their belief system. If you're a black person who says something that most black people agree with, or a brown person who says something most brown people agree with, they don't like you then. They like the good Negroes and the good people of color who say the things that they want to say. So they don't really appreciate diversity. They appreciate people who look differently but think exactly the same way that they do. And that's why they're so threatened by the idea of diversity. And that's the reason why they keep raising up these puppets like Tim Scott and Clarence Thomas and Mark Robinson and others who confirm their beliefs and also allow them to do so without looking like they're racist. So if I have a black person making a anti-black racist argument, then that gives me cover to make that same argument as a white person. And that's exactly what Tim Scott is doing when he's shucking and jiving for Donald Trump up there on stage. It's exactly what Clarence Thomas is doing when he's supporting the insurrectionists through his wife and through his own actions in the Supreme Court. That's exactly what Robinson is doing in North Carolina, his gubernatorial campaign. That's exactly what a lot of these people are doing. And I get called this term a lot. I don't know if you heard this term before or has been directed at you, race hustler. Have you heard that term before?
I've heard it, of course. I mean, it goes back. Sharpton's been called that. Jesse's been called that. It's. I don't think I've been called that, at least not to my face, and I dare somebody to try it.
We use it on our show actually to describe affinity fraudsters, people that
Do
have
you?
used
Race
yeah
hustler?
for like Sean King. That's who we use. Yeah, I drive. We'll clip that. Clip that.
We I get called that all the time on Twitter, which is one of the reasons why I really don't like Twitter anymore. But that's another story. But I get called that all the time on Twitter. But the reason why I mention this is because the people who are the real, if there is such a thing as a race hustler, first of all, the only people I know who are doing that, who are really hustling, are the people like the Clarence Thomases and the Tim Scotts and the Brian Robinsons, Mark Robinsons, who are doing this, who are spreading these messages to help perpetuate white supremacy. That's where the money is. I keep telling people this all the time. I've been a black progressive Democrat for my entire life. If I decided today, I said, F the Democrats, I'm going to be a Republican, Donald Trump all the way, I would be on Fox News tonight. I have a show by the end of the week. I would have millions of dollars. I'd be raking in the bucks because they would love me. They would love to have a black, liberal, progressive Democrat who's seen the way and now supports white supremacy.
He's seen the light.
Yeah,
seen the white light.
That's the real race hustle.
Yeah.
Man, you're saying I don't put Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson in the same category as a Candace Owens or Jason Whitlock, who I think both hustle race because it's lucrative, because they are mediocre at best, and they could not ever be great in the field of sport, which was Jason's area, or whatever it is that Candace Owens thinks that she does. She couldn't compete in the realm with other people who have brains, so she's over here where it's easy. Diamond and Silk before one of them went bye-bye. I think that Mark Robinson feels like a old school preacher who really believes what he's saying. And if you pick apart like the part about, no one owes you anything, someone took the lash for you, there's a swath, and this is what makes the Republicans so stupid. Most black people are conservative who may be in alignment with this ideology, but for the racism. Do you know what I'm saying? So when the autopsy was put out after Mitt Romney lost to Obama, it was like, make the tent bigger. They could have had an easier way of winning by putting up a candidate like maybe not a Michael Steele, but somebody like a Michael. You know what I'm saying? Somebody that is not a hateful person who could, be small government, big values, all of the things that they say they like, and could have made the tent bigger. An Obama version of what that would look like.
Well, yeah,
but they didn't.
Bobby Jindal said we have to stop being the stupid party, and then they elected Donald Trump.
Right. But it was effective though, because they, more people showed up after 2016 for him. So it's clearly they're on a train right now.
It's effective, but you have to consider this. I mean, first of all, the Republican Party is dying out in terms of its popularity, even though it's more powerful than it's ever been in other respects. But they've lost 7 of the last 8 presidential elections in the popular vote. I mean, we haven't seen a record that's stunningly bad for decades in American political history. And the reason why they continue to lose the popular vote is because they are not reflective of the multicultural, pluralistic, diverse America that's out there. So the only thing they have is to double down on appealing to their base and working the systems we already have. I mean, they have a structural bias in their favor. I mean, one, you've got the Electoral College, which helps them tremendously because you got tiny, small states that get disproportionate leverage. 2, you've got the United States Senate, which also gives them disproportionate leverage because you got small states like Wyoming with 700,000 people that has the same number of U.S. senators as California here with 40 million people. And then you've got the gerrymandered House of Representatives. And you put all that together with a judiciary that's been influenced by Trump appointees and Bush appointees and is willing to strike down almost anything, including the fact that we have a 6-3 Supreme Court, which is completely unrepresentative of the presidents who have been elected by the people in the past 2 decades. That all gives them the leverage to be able to run and not just an authoritarian government, but an anti-democratic government, a government that is not concerned about what the majority of the American people want because they have to serve the interest of the white, soon-to-be minority.
Keith, how do you think about the Republican Party? You said it was in some ways strongest than it's ever been, but there's this unmooring of the Republican Party between the MAGAs and the kind of like old institutional of Republican Party. How do you see that progressing through the future?
The Republican Party has gone through many different iterations in the course of its history. And a lot of the Republicans today claim that they're the party of Lincoln. They are not the party of Lincoln. They haven't been the party of Lincoln since 1964, when Democratic President Lyndon Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act, and no Democratic candidate for president has won the white vote since that time. Republicans went through this period after 64 with the Southern strategy where they were the party of Nixon and Reagan. And then that lasted until Donald Trump came along. And even when Trump ran when he first announced his campaign in 2015, the majority of Republicans denounced him. They said, this is not representative, including Nikki Haley, by the way. They denounced him. They said, this is not representative of who we are as a party. We will not support this. And then one by one, they started to fall down and cave to Donald Trump because they had been quietly sucking up to, catering to, appealing to this white supremacist, racist mob base all the time, but they'd been doing so under the rug, under the table, if you will. And then Trump comes up and pulls up the rug, to use that metaphor again, pulls up the rug and exposes it all, says, hey, we're openly, avowedly pro-white. And all the other people who have been pretending to be something else had to figure out where their space is. But there was no space in the Republican Party for them. As the Republican Party isn't just a party of limited government and low taxes. They're a party of white supremacy. That's what they represent.
Keith Boykin, why does everything have to be about race? 25 arguments that won't go away. You have the book sectioned into 4 parts. First part, erasing Black history. Second part, centering white victimhood. The third, 5 parts. Yeah. Third part, denying Black oppression. Part 4, myths of Black inferiority, which I want to lean in on. And then the rebranding of racism. As it relates, and I appreciate part 4 because Black on Black crime is dealt with there, that, more white people are on welfare, more Black people are on welfare than white people, which is the myth, but you tell the truth about it. Black families are not broken, which I love. What was the impetus for that? Is that your most powerful section to you?
This is the part that really, can I say, pisses me off the most. Yeah. This is the part that really pisses me off the most because I feel like there is an undercurrent of racism in a lot of the language that people use about Black people when they say Chicago. Chicago has become a code name for everything that's Black, everything that's wrong with America. It's Black, it's inner city, it's crime, it's corruption, it's all these different things. But what they don't talk about is all the state governments that make the decisions and have an impact on the local governments. The reason why Atlanta couldn't pass a mask mandate during the middle of COVID is because the state of Georgia wouldn't allow them. The reason why Texas, Dallas, and Houston couldn't impose coronavirus restrictions during the middle of COVID was because Governor Abbott in Austin wouldn't allow them to do that. So there's a whole sort of reworking that needs to take place in how we understand some of the problems that we acknowledge in the Black community we do face. I think you were saying earlier how Black people are conservative about some of these things. We've been saying there's this myth that Black people don't care about crime. We're only talking about police brutality because we don't want to talk about crime in our own communities. We have been talking about crime for decades. I remember back in the 80s watching Jesse Jackson and other Black civil rights leaders march through the streets of Chicago and other cities, telling people to put the guns down, babies, stop killing babies, stop the crime, stop the violence. I remember the rap artists and hip hop artists have been doing this. It's been going on for a long time. So we need to stop the lies and the mythology. We have been involved in these issues for a long time.
And get the book. Why does everything have to be about race? Keith Boykin, you make some compelling cases. I'm so proud of you. Congratulations. Thank you for being here.